I would write myself a letter from the future. Dear Tom, what an amazing year it's been.
You're getting goosebumps, eh?
You're marketing to yourself a preview of your coming highlights.
Dude, that's sick. That's actually sick.
Everything we've touched on so far are universal principles. Everyone listening at home, like, they can implement that right now.
The law of reciprocity. I will help you even when you don't need me. So when you need me, I'll be the one that you'll pick. Eliminate every tosser in your life.
And how do you identify a tosser?
I'm gonna get rid of these guys.
Okay.
We're getting rid of each other.
Everyone's looking at each other here.
All right, we are live.
Let's do it.
You guys are in all black.
You didn't get the memo.
I didn't get the memo.
I feel a bit.
You look good.
I
Look
feel a
handsome.
bit of an outcast. How is everyone?
Very good, very good.
Awesome, man. Honestly.
Ready to roll.
It's a bit
I'm
rainy
excited for
today,
this
isn't it?
guest.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be a good one. So, anyways, today's guest, guys, is the master of persuasion. He's Australia's most famous auctioneer, and you guys may recognize him from the popular TV show The Block. He also has over 30 years of experience in the real estate game, over 27,000 online students on his platform, and the thing I respect most about this man is he puts family first. Please welcome to the locker room, Tom Panos.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Here we go.
This feels good right from the outset.
Yeah.
boys.
What an
That's it.
intro.
That was that for an
Yeah.
intro, man.
That's great.
Pack it up now. It's just
Awesome.
awesome. So, Tom, we were talking amongst us, and basically, we want to make sure that we're not just like every other podcast. You know, we don't want to just ask you generic questions from Google. We want to get deep, and we will touch on real estate as well. But before we get deep, I wanted to ask you, you know, how did you become such a master of negotiation, persuasion, and building relationships? It's such an important thing for us.
So important, yeah.
Yeah. So, Chris, thanks, master. I reckon I'm good. I've had a lot of practice, and I like it. And I think there's a learning there. If you like something, you'll do a lot of it. If you do a lot of it, you'll get a lot of practice. You get a lot of practice, you become great at it. So I think there is a little bit of that link that I was interested and fascinated. In fact, I look back, Chris, and I can tell you, even at the age of 18, 19, I was brought up in a suburb called Belmore, Lakemba.
Yep, inner west, right? Yep.
In Canterbury Bankstown,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
now sort of on the border of the inner west as the inner west goes out further west.
Yep.
And I remember even as a young kid, I would go into Roseland's bookstore and buy books that had a genre of business,
Wow.
influence,
At a young age.
yeah,
Wow.
It's amazing.
negotiation. So I have had an appetite and curiosity on it, and I pretty much have worked roles that I've had to do influence all the time. See, in some jobs, you've got authority. Authority
Yeah.
is when someone is getting paid a wage and you say to them, you do that.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, like, I'm not going to pay you. I'll
100%.
sack you.
Yep.
But with influence, you don't have the authority. What you've got to do is sell the idea to the person that this is good for you.
Yeah. That's
Right.
good.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah, 100%.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So,
really cool.
and that's been my life. Whatever I'm doing, whether I'm trying to influence my daughters to live a way of life, whether I'm trying to influence certain people that are contractors that I don't have direct employee authority. Like, the easiest people to influence is my staff, because they sort of know, like, we got to do it, or
course.
we get a third and final warning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when it comes to contractors, clients, buyers, vendors at auctions, whether I'm pitching for a speaking gig that's a really big gig that I know is going to give me a year's income, I need to have influence.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Wow.
100%, 100%.
Yeah. And that's something that I guess sparks my curiosity, because I know one thing that you touched on that I really want to dive into is there's a difference between automatically having that power, but also stepping into a room and being able to gain that influence in a short setting potentially
So
or over
important.
time. So are there certain ways, abilities or ways of speaking, ways you carry yourself that help you have that influence that maybe people can take or
Good
learn
question.
from
Yeah,
that?
we've seen it, man.
Okay, so I'll run through a few key themes that you talked to. The first one would be at an auction, a basic principle is scarcity. That while an auction's going on, and you can actually see it, it's interesting, you can actually see it in the block last year when Adrian Portelli, which a lot of people don't, a lot of people know him as the Lambo guy,
Yeah.
and he's fighting over a house with Danny, who's this regular person that buys
saw
the
that one,
properties
that
on the
episode.
block.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right?
So,
So
yeah.
they're going for it, right? Scarcity is one's going to take it, then the other one takes it, and then you'll notice that during that auction, which you can actually see on YouTube, I actually say, so it looks like we're going to have a new king of the block here today.
Oh, yes.
So you're
Power
taking
play.
away the title to masses of people.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're playing on their ego almost.
I love that.
100%.
It's an
Yeah.
emotion. You're
Yeah.
playing on their
It's an
emotions.
Get their emotions.
Correct.
Because then it's not a logical decision, right?
Correct.
I love that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you can picture the two individuals thinking there. I've got millions of people watching on this on Channel 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to
and
win.
he's just basically said, I'm
Yeah.
taking the title away.
Yeah.
You know?
Smart.
So it's
He's gonna beat his chest.
Yeah.
No, I am the king.
And how did you know how to say that in that right moment?
Well, for a start, there are little things that you can see. Jamie, example, Adrian Portelli showed up, which I didn't know. I didn't know him at the time. He comes in with a T-shirt, LMCT
right?
plus.
Yeah.
And I can read the play, and I'm thinking to myself, he's come here on TV with
Promoting.
his brand
The logo,
here,
yeah,
right?
cheeky.
He wants to make a statement.
Correct. He's not shy.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
did actually say to him, I said, look, sometimes buyers want to keep it on the quiet, and they don't want to be seen. They'll have a buyer's agent. I said, if you want to play it low key, don't be sitting in the front row because the cameras will be there, right? And I was just using a little bit of a test there to see where he's
Yeah.
at. He goes, oh, no, it's all good,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
then
you
I-
knew what he was trying to get at.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
so clever.
So,
Wow.
So you
as
picked
soon
up on
as-
the early signs.
Correct.
Read the room,
that was
yeah.
an early sign. Then I turned
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
and I said, so you're comfortable being seen by millions on TV tomorrow night? He goes, yes. And I said, well, look, if that's the case, I said, you can actually turn this into an incredible marketing advertisement campaign if we get this right.
There you
So
go.
you said that to him
I had-
before.
the auction.
You planted the seed.
Before the auction. And I actually said to him, and I said, and if you actually go in with a really strong bid
Yep.
and you tell Australia you've got money,
Yeah.
I'll make a point of actually mentioning your brand name. And I said, it'll cost you millions to buy that kind of
100%.
advertising.
100%, yeah.
And he carried through with it. He
On
made
traditional
it.
TV.
Genius. Now look at him. He's amazing.
It was that one
Absolutely.
moment that I think really set him off on the right path. It was that
100%.
one clip that everyone can't get out of their
100%.
heads.
That
And
was
that's
it.
really
It was this one bid at 4.5 million that knocked everyone out,
Yeah.
and they thought, who is this
Who is
guy?
this guy?
Right?
I need to know more.
wow.
Yeah.
But the fact that you planted that seed
So
early and
clever,
recognized
man.
that to be able to read the room, that's probably that preemptive persuasion probably caused him to go that bid. If you hadn't have said anything, it might have been a lot lower potentially.
Correct. And it's getting an understanding. We all have currencies in life. And it's not what everyone thinks, it's just money's the only currency. No, man. Sometimes the currency is recognition. Look at me.
Status.
Status.
Yeah.
You know?
Power.
So,
So-
find what someone needs. What are they looking for?
Yeah, and what
then
drives them.
and then you'll be able to, not control them, but you'll be able to, meet them. You'll be able to know what they're looking for.
Yep.
And then if you can provide that, then you're the guy.
Correct. There was no point, Chris, there's no point saying to Adrian Portelli, mate, it's got a beautiful ensuite, mate. You can there. Mate, he doesn't care about the
He doesn't
ensuite.
care.
Hey,
Yes.
Adrian, have a look at this kitchen bench stone. Mate, he doesn't care.
doesn't
His
care.
currency was not that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, tomorrow I'll be auctioning real estate and I'll have a property that'll be in an area that's in a school catchment.
Yep.
and I'll know that the parents who their number one thing in their life is their kids.
Yeah.
And I'll just keep, if I know that bias currency is that,
There you
I'll
go.
say, just imagine, you're guaranteed to be in this school. They can't take that away from you.
Bang.
I think you make a really great point, because I think so many people in the marketplace in business, they see things from only their perspective. But when you can actually put yourself in the customer's shoes and operate from a way of what do they actually want to get out of something and how can I facilitate that? That's where the power is. And I think when I make my own content, and I always preach this to people, it's like, if you want to start making, for example, social media content, don't think about yourself, think about the customer. So think about, hey, I think I'm important, I think I can offer value, but will people actually care about me? How can I flip it on its head and actually offer the person watching me the value before I get any piece of the pie? I think as well, Tom, what'd be great, because we have a lot of young men watching this, is if a young guy out there wanted to be a really successful master of negotiation or persuasion, what would your sort of top 3 tips be?
Care, but not too much. And the reason I say it is, if you over care, it comes across, and then you start having what I call deal breath or commission breath, right? And they can tell, like, this person really
Desperate almost.
desperate, and people can smell desperation a mile away.
Yeah.
So you've got to have this, I care, but it's not the end of the world, right? Because I see it happening all the time, Jamie, at auctions. I'll see a real estate agent talking to a buyer. Trust me, buy it. You won't regret it. It's a really good house. It's this, this and that. And you're sitting there and you can just look at the client and you can smell the breath of commission, right? I think, a better approach is, hey, based on everything I've shown you, I think this is an unbelievable property. I would buy this myself, but I totally get it. You take your time, and that's a far better approach with people than sort of, fast talking, intimidating, putting pressure on people. So care, but not too much. The second thing is, have a lot of balls up in the air. And the reason I say it is, when you've got a lot of balls up in the air, you don't care whether that deal comes off.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't come off, you've got other things.
Others.
So you're not desperate. We talk about not being desperate.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
it's- a lot of people
That
say...
makes so much
don't-
sense.
Yeah, you get it. So the more opportunities, the less desperate. The less desperate you are, the more people feel like, oh, this person,
Scarcity.
I can tell he's not begging me to buy it.
And you're
Same,
not relying
in
on
dating.
that.
Same across the board, you know what I mean?
And you're not relying on that one person. So then that'll come across in the way you interact with them. You say, I care about you, but if you don't buy it, I've got plenty of other options.
Yeah.
And that will
100%.
allude in your presence and the way you sort of
100%.
interact with them.
And
For
the
sure,
other
love that.
thing that I think helps in negotiation is trust. Because
100%.
frequency builds trust. If you think about that concept, frequency builds trust. If you just picture a jar, and every time you do something that's building trust with someone, there's a jelly bean that goes into that jar. The person that's got the most jelly beans in the jar is the person that's got the most trust. So that goes to say, if you want to be a good negotiator, build long-term relationships. But if you don't have the ability to have a long-term relationship, like you're meeting someone for the first time, another thing I think works really well is showing your vulnerability.
Yes.
Wow.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Bro, if you become vulnerable with someone, it's showing them, wow, this person I don't know, sorry to interrupt.
No.
This person that I don't know is willing to tell me something so deep and personal about themselves that they're genuine. They're genuine.
So Chris, can I give you an example of that? I used to go out and pitch when I was a real estate agent many years ago, to go get business, to get a listing. And that's the most competitive bit in real estate, is to get the listing, get the list. And I would say to a homeowner, I'd say, by the way, I want to let you know, if you list with me, I'm available to take your call every day till 10 o'clock. I am here for you.
10 p.m.
10 p.m. But I want to let you know that between 6:30 and 8:30, I'm going to be uncontactable, because this is the time I'm spending with my two daughters as they're growing up.
That's
right? And then, so a lot of people would say on the surface, oh, that's a negative because that's a key time. But no, most people are family people that I'm working with. They're saying, he's like us.
Yep.
He's got the same issues. He's worried about his kids. So you get this. So what appears to be a weakness ends up becoming a strength. Or another example is when I was showing houses, and I knew this was a good house for them, but it could have a small crack, right? I used to say before we'd walk into the property, hey, I want to let you know, I think this home's perfect for you. The only thing is there's a massive crack, right? And I'm just letting you know. And then they'd come in, because I've painted it worse than what it is, they'd look at it, no, you just put a bit of sealer in that. You just paint it. No, that's
I love
nothing.
They come up with a
That's it.
solution.
Yeah.
Now they believe every positive
from then
thing that
on.
you say.
Correct.
You've earned
It's
their
just
trust.
such an emotional game.
Back to, I was just going to say, it's back to that emotional connection,
It's all
finding
emotional.
their currency.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I was just thinking, how would he do it in that situation? Then you just brought it back.
Yeah.
You think, okay, everyone's got family, you know?
Yeah.
How do I resonate with that?
And
And people respect that, man.
Yeah.
It's just so transparent, you know?
And
So
speaking of
honest.
emotion as well, Tom, one thing I've noticed about you is, I've known you for about a year or so now. And the key, I think, takeaway from whenever I meet you is, and it's not just me that says it, but like everyone else says it as well, that you have this incredible alpha presence, this presence that just kind of like when you walk in a room, all the heads turn. And I want to kind of touch on that because in the locker room, we love to obviously talk about key strategies and ways and implementations that the boys out there can level themselves up. And I think you're a beacon and you're obviously like a North Star in that field where so many people can take advice from you. So I wanted to know, like, with your presence that you have and that energy that you sort of portray in your auctions or in business negotiation, whatever it is, how did you get it? Were you born with it, do you think, or did you have to build it up, and how did you do so?
I think it's a combination of a few things. I think my energy levels overall are significantly better when I sleep well, I eat well, and exercise well. Those three key foundations mean that I'm in a good state. But I think, Jamie, the process of getting self-awareness, finding out who you are and being totally comfortable about who you are, so you're not influenced by outsiders who might actually there. See, if you know who you are and what you stand for, man, you're not too worried too much about the opinions and views of others. Obviously, your clients, your family, right, you're here and there. But, man, am I going to pay attention to someone who's in a basement flat in King's Cross that puts in a comment on TikTok that doesn't even know me, right? Yet I know myself inside
matter.
out,
Yeah.
you know?
That's good.
So self-awareness and liking yourself on the inside means that you'll have to, I've got to tell you, if you like yourself on the inside, it's going to save you a lot of money on the outside, because there's a heap of people that are weak on the inside that spend bucks on brands to elevate them because they're saying, I don't like me, I need others to like me. If they like the outside of me, right? You'll just make your life so much better. Just sort of start accepting we have a unique psychological fingerprint, like a fingerprint on a hand. We've all been built by God to have a unique psychological fingerprint, and you've got to love it, not fight it. Because, in fact, it's your strength. It's your unique strength. You know?
This is something we're really big on in the locker room as well, because we also say, like, when you're so set on your values, your moral compass, what you stand for, what you don't, you're not going out into the world looking for validation, right? And we've spoken about this. We almost were all like this when we were younger. When you're younger and you're looking for the validation of others, you almost have to be a puppet master. Because in one room, you have to have a certain way of thinking, act a certain way, treat people with certain different ways. You enter another room, then you've got to change your whole personality and vibe and what you stand for just to meet their criteria.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're becoming like a puppet master where you're changing and evolving. That's a tiring way to live. So we're super vocal on that. So I love that you touched on that. It's really good.
Look, it's tiring. I have been down that path.
Yeah.
I have been down that path. But eventually you have to take the mask off because it's just draining and draining. And the great thing about it is once you accept it, it's easy because you can't bullshit the truth. It's good. It's so it's just so easy, and it's the one thing that I would just push to the people that are closest to me, my 2 daughters, obviously, to push to them, just like who you are, because then everything is just so much easier. You make your own decisions. You're not having influenced by other people. And, it's really difficult with social media as well, because, social media lives and real lives are not the same lives. And sometimes when people are looking at other people, they're comparing themselves to something that's not
even
real.
real.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I love about everything we've touched on so far is you're obviously a master in the property side of things, but everything we've touched on so far are universal principles. Like even the selling tactics that you've given us, it's not about the item. It's about the personal connection. And this is something we're also super big in the locker room, is developing transferable skills that you can take into any endeavor. So even whether everyone listening, what you said about property, understanding their motives, their values, not being able to be influenced. This is all things that if you're in another high ticket offer or you're in small sales, you can implement that. I wanted to ask off the back of that, is there anything else that you think we haven't touched on that's a transferable skill that can be a skill set that all the young people out there can focus on, that they can take into any room? Because we've touched on a few, but I was just wondering if there's any others that people should focus on.
Probably the law of reciprocity. And it's happening all around us at high levels, at low levels, at government level. And that is that there's a universal principle. And you can, like a lot of these principles are actually out there in research. There's a great book called Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini, and he talks about the law of reciprocity, which basically says, if I come to your home for your birthday and I give you a $500 present, when it's my birthday, you're not going to come back with a $10 present, right?
Yeah.
If this country supports this country in a war, you're going to help us when you need. It's the law of reciprocity.
Yeah.
And that law is very important in business, because basically it's saying is, I will help you even when you don't need me. So when you need me, I'll be the one that you'll pick. Right? Does that make sense?
Love that.
I want to, So I want to play like a little bit of devil's advocate. Do you think that people in business can see if you're doing something just for the intention of getting something back?
That's a very, very interesting observation to pick up, because what we're saying is we agree that the law of reciprocity is, if I do this, I'm creating maybe some sort of moral obligation that you reciprocate it. But if your intention was, I will do this, I really don't want to do this, but I'm doing it for my gain.
Yeah.
Man, that's a con man.
100%.
If you think about it, because basically saying is, I'm going to use this to manipulate you, right? So I've always had an approach that you should not sell something that you don't believe in or that's good for the person. Right? Because then what's happening is you're gaining, they're not. It's not going to build a long-term sustainable life, because my model has been build raving fans. How do you do that? You do business with people and you make sure that after the deal, they're really happy. And then the second thing is, you don't go off to actually do things like buy that gift with on the condition that I'm going to get this, that you genuinely make the decision in your life that we might be separate. There might be 8 billion people on this planet, but we are all interconnected. We're like nodes. I know 100 people who know 100 people who know 100 people who know 100 people. So whether you like it or not, everything you're doing has got an effect, a domino effect, right? So if you've got a view in your life that it's a privilege to be born on this planet, many don't get that, and that your job is to make things better for people, and sometimes it's not even better. Sometimes it's to reduce their suffering. Sometimes it's not better, right? To reduce their suffering. It changes when you're helping someone, am I doing it because I care about them, or am I doing it because this is part of a technique for me to actually win while they lose, right?
100%.
And that's interesting, Jamie, because I got to tell you, in my business, in training, I meet a lot of people and they want to know the techniques. They're bad people wanting to know techniques.
Right,
so
right,
all you
right.
become is a bad person with techniques.
techniques.
Literal con artist, yeah.
Right, con
You
artist.
just get better at it.
We just need better people.
Yeah, I love
yeah.
I love
And
that.
that ties
With
into
integrity.
So Tom, speaking of obviously like building networks and connections with people, and obviously reciprocating in a morally good way. If any guy out there watching this, was to come across someone that they want to network with, for example, or they were at a networking business event and they go, hey, this guy could really help me. I'd love to do business with him. How can they approach that relationship in a non-superficial way, but by also, offering value on both ends?
Great question.
Good question. So the first thing is, it's damn awkward going to a business function and being there in the crowd and going up there, oh, hi, how you going?
Yes.
You know what I mean? That awkward feeling. And I'm not the world's best networker, but I did learn very early on that if you are going to go to an event, get there early and sit at the front where everyone is coming in.
Wow.
Where they sometimes assume that you're one of the hosts.
Come and talk to you.
So
That's great. That's
they're
great.
coming. You say, "Oh, how you going? How you going?" Everyone's just sort of nice to you. Oh, this guy must be the guy running there.
And they've seen your face as well.
Or you can
So
wear
there's that
you can wear a
touch point.
high vis.
Correct.
You can wear a high
You're
vis.
not coming up to them cold. They're like, oh, I remember that guy. when I
Correct,
walked
Bayley.
in.
So picture that versus you staring at
Yeah.
someone across the room.
Yeah.
They're looking at you.
Making eye contact.
That's genius, bro.
Yeah.
Completely
I love
breaks the ice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
so
interesting.
that helps.
so clever.
The second thing is I find that, and you touched on it earlier on, is to become an interested introvert, not an interesting extrovert.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
Okay, wow.
Right? So I find that you can network and connect with people a lot more if you're not trying to actually do a lot of the talking
Yes.
and sort of subconsciously say, wow, look at me, whereas being more curious. And for me, it's a natural because I am a curious person. Like I'm curious about, even you guys, right? I'm just curious how they come together.
Yeah.
They've got a few common denominators. They look fit. They look young. They've got a strong faith. They're doing things for. I'm fascinated and curious about where people are at with things.
Yep.
But I would say that, but to me, I would say, Jamie, the main thing is play the long game. Don't play the short game. Don't try and get anything out of every interaction, right? Because people can smell that a mile away. I would probably say, and the other thing I would say is, man, if you're going to want to start building relationships with people, understand that how do I explain it? There's foreplay, right? Like, what I mean by that is, like, you don't just, oh, hi, how you going? My name's Tom. Man, any chance we can catch up next Saturday, 10 o'clock? No. Build a relationship online. Like their comments.
Yep.
Add stuff to, that they add. Validate what they say. Get them to like you, because we clearly know, which we haven't really touched on, the law of liking says you will be a better influencer and a better negotiator if they like you.
100%.
End of story.
Hands down.
Right?
Love that.
And I do that. I got to tell you, one of my strengths as an auctioneer, I'm not the best with the numbers. Like some of these other auctioneers are a lot better at 800, 850. I'm not good at that. But what I am good at is when someone walks in to that room and I walk in where they're getting registered, I try and get them to like me before the auction.
Strike a conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, how are you? How's it going?
Yeah. So it's not so Bayley, when you're taking bids, it's not like, oh, this is the auctioneer that's going to go hard on me. No, this is the guy that was nice to me for
Friendly
15
guy.
minutes
Yeah.
inside the house that joked with my little kids, right?
Build rapport.
Yeah.
When I was standing there awkwardly and I was a bit shy
Absolutely.
and everyone
Correct.
else is talking and the actual auctioneer came and said hi to me and introduced himself.
Yeah.
That goes a long way.
Correct.
So
Goes
I
a
love
long
that.
way.
Yeah, that's
For
awesome.
sure.
So Tom, now, we've talked about business, we've talked about negotiation, persuasion, and we've all got so many gems, and I'm sure the boys at home and the people watching have learned so much. But now I want to bring it deeper. So I myself have had a lot of family members who have dealt with cancer. My grandma had breast cancer. A few of my uncles have had cancer. Fortunately, like yourself, they were able to beat their cancers. But I was there, and I know how hard it was for each one of them, how troubling it was, what an emotional time it was, how the family dealt with it. And, you know, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, obviously. I wanted to know how, you know, I know about your cancer journey, and, you know, you've had it 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Now, how were you able to, I guess, get through that troubling time each time and still, you know, run a successful business, be the man you are today? I find that fascinating.
Chris, look, it's a lot easier to talk about it when it's gone past. Like if we were having this conversation and you asked me how you're dealing with it, man, I don't know what I would say. And on one of the occasions, on the 3rd cancer diagnosis, it was quite devastating because I actually got re-diagnosed. It was a phone call. You get diagnosed generally face-to-face, or they ring you with some results.
Yeah. Yep.
And it happened while my young brother, who's also my best mate, some people aren't close with their brothers.
Yeah,
My
that's
brother's
amazing.
my best mate.
Yeah. Wow.
My young brother was in palliative care, dying. So I got diagnosed in 2018 at Concord Palliative Care on a phone while my brother was dying. My brother died the next day. My brother died the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, listen, all I'll say to you is that some of the best gifts in life come badly wrapped, and I say it because it's been a gift because it's helped me. You become a person, a different person. The person that walked into the cancer storm is a different person that walked out of the cancer storm.
Yeah.
Right? You had to become a person that had to learn to live with unpredictability. Wow. And even to this day, I'm not stupid. We're here this Friday, we're here on a Friday. I know that there's a gun at the back of my head. At any time the trigger can go and say, man, you've relapsed, because I've had it 3 times. And I was a stage 4, one of them was a stage 4 diagnosis. Stage 4 in cancer, there's stage 1, 2, 3, 4. I was a stage 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd know from your family.
Yeah. So you could say it almost gave you a new lease on life. You know, they say the quote, like, live every day like it's your last. You know, for someone like yourself, I'm sure you said you came out a different person. I can't imagine how that would have felt.
Yeah.
Chris, it's not easy. In 2006, when I got diagnosed, I was in my mid-30s, and I had a daughter, 3 years of age. Wow. And and I had no cancer in my family. It's like it was just like a really bad dream. And then they said to me, it's incurable. They said, it's incurable. We're going to put you on management. Management is, you're going to die, but we're going to slow it down, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
And then to top it all off, my wife comes in to chemo at RPA, like 2 months into it. Like, what happened is I got diagnosed on a Friday. They said to me, we're letting you know you're going to become infertile because all the chemo. I've got to tell you, it's the last thing that's on your mind, right?
Of course.
Like the last thing on your mind. Anyway, for your listeners and viewers, the law is that if you're under, I think, 40, you've got to go do sperm banking.
Yeah.
The minute before you start chemo.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to do it. So if you just picture, what's happened is I got diagnosed, they said there, and then they said, quickly, you got to rush to Concord Hospital because that's where they did the sperm banking. And I'd done the sperm banking. And anyway, cut a long story short, that weekend, Saturday, Sunday, I sat with my wife for the last time for a long time, because then I got sick. And then she came into chemo, like a couple of months later, she says, I think I'm pregnant.
Wow.
So then I'm thinking to myself, man, like this is like, I've got a 3-year-old. My wife's told me she's pregnant, and I've got a doctor that's told me I've got incurable cancer. And Ironically, the first child was really hard to have. It took us ages, and then the second one was like basically one time. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to have a kid being born with no father. And it was a really like I'm thinking about having a
Yeah, of course.
abortion,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's really difficult because my values, and I'm sitting there and I started having fights with my wife, and then we eventually couldn't make a decision, and then it ran out of time. We couldn't make the decision because it was too late.
Yeah.
And thank God,
thank God.
I got cleared. My daughter was born.
It was a godsend.
It was a
Yeah, that's
godsend.
amazing.
She's healthy. Her name's Christina, and
Yeah.
she was born on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
No way.
And I still remember going back. So I finished treatment in November, and I'm going back for my daughter being born, and I've recovered.
Wow.
Right? And the car park guy there, and he nearly broke down because he thought he's relapsed so quickly, like he's back here. I said, no. I said,
Nah.
she's in the
it's a
baby
happy
No
section.
way.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
such an incredible
God has
story.
a plan, man.
Far out,
God has a
man.
plan for everything.
100%.
That's incredible, man.
So going through that, I just want to ask quickly. So what do you think? I know Chris mentioned you obviously appreciate every moment a lot more, but for you specifically, I want to hear from you. What changed in your mindset perspective in your life before, like maybe you were a younger guy, you're chasing certain things, you're chasing money, fame, or career, or did your priority shift? What for
Yeah,
you
it's a
were the
good
biggest
Great
transformative
question.
perception shifts
Okay.
after that experience?
So the first thing, Bayley, is that I never thought about the concept that you'll die. When you're in your 20s and 30s, you actually think that there's endless number
you
tomorrow.
feel invincible.
Invincible.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm gonna die. I'm the one that they talk about on TV. I'm gonna be like there used to be McDonald's commercials back then with the McDonald's house with kids. And I said, I'm there now,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So it was a very, very challenging, and I had to, Bayley, and I had to. So there's two bits to this: the bits to get through it, and then afterwards, what had happened to me as a person. So the first thing is there comes a time in life when you realise maybe a bank manager, a barrister, a doctor is not enough. And that was the case for me,
Yep.
right? Because they said to me, look, we're going to put you on a clinical trial, we're going to try this drug, we're going to do this, but we're letting you know science at the moment cannot cure this. So my natural instinct, and it always has been, is I turn to God. Always has been. But I was not a very, very, let's say, a strong practicing Christian. But all of a sudden, I started having a talking relationship with God. And I still remember looking out the window at RPA Hospital, Missenden Road, and I remember saying, God, if you get me through this in the way that you think, I give you my commitment. I will spend the remainder of the life that I have on this planet to either help people have better lives or reduce suffering to people. I give you that commitment.
love that.
I give you that commitment.
Yep. Wow.
And
He answered.
It's a big shift.
yeah, and it changed everything. And then I started. I got to tell you, I started. I was reading a lot of books. I was reading a lot of spiritual books, and I began to realise there's always a spiritual solution for human problems.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's helped me a lot. But don't get me wrong, I know very well chemo works.
Yeah.
I'm not silly, right?
100%.
Chemo works, lifestyle choices work. The decision to make a decision, and I had to make a decision because my doctor said to me as things started to get better, he goes, listen, you could be in a small category of people, right, 5-10% that goes into NED, which NED is no evidence of disease. And he said, but you need to know you're going to have a view that you're going to get better. And that's when I started reading about the placebo effect. And the placebo effect
So
is...
real, hey.
Yeah. I mean, the placebo... I mean, to give you an example, when I've been on clinical trials, often they haven't even told me that if I'm on the drug or not. And the reason they do it is because of the double-blind study. They don't want your brain to impact the efficacy of the results because they're trying to work out how science... So we know that the brain can actually change
100%.
the molecular biology of your body. You know?
I believe this
Yes,
wholeheartedly.
100%.
Wholeheartedly, yeah.
I remember having this conversation with my doctor when he gave me, he went off and printed a fact sheet and he showed me the stats. And then he said to me, I think it was 93% mortality, 7% survival. And I said to him, well, the way I look at it is you're either going to be 100% of the 93% or you're going to be 100% of the 7%.
Yeah.
And I better make the decision from going forward from now on, I will think, act and behave as if I'm a person that is going to be 100% of the 7%.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, I'll make better choices. I'll eat better. I'll sleep better. I'll exercise. I'll pray. I just pushed everything to get the dial to go towards me.
Yeah.
And look, don't get me wrong. It's been hard. Like I copped it again in 16 and I copped it again in 18. And when people find out I've had more than 300 chemo and radiation sessions, like that's a lot. Like most people do 10, 20 when they get sick, you know?
Yeah.
I've had a lot. To be able to get through it, I've got a total attitude of gratitude and I'm totally blessed and I'm happy for whichever this journey is going to go now. I'm a lot more comfortable because I've got a 20-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old daughter and money's all good and life is all good. I don't want to die, but you know,
Yeah,
It's such an amazing perception.
For sure. And I think as well, like looking at you as a person, I think, especially for us, you know, we see a very strong, fierce, you know, never give up sort of fighter within you. And it's so true because when you have that about yourself and your persona and about your life, it doesn't matter what you're going through because you just adopt what you've already, I guess, developed as a human being into these difficult situations. And then you use that as a forefront and almost like a reason to keep going. Because I think so many people in this world, they have this sort of victim mindset, this excuse where it's like, oh, well, I'm in this predicament now, there's no way out. But I think when you can flip it on its head like you have with especially something like cancer and show that you were that, you know, micro percentage of the people that actually got through it, it does show that it really wholeheartedly does relate to how much belief and faith you have in yourself. And I think this is a great time to sort of, you know, talk about how God has helped you in that way because, you know, we're all Christian men here and we all have strong faith, which is why we wanted to get you on the episode. And I think that like it'd be so valuable for you to talk us through how God has really been at the forefront of your life and helped you through not just the bad, but also the good as well.
Okay. A big turning point was actually in chemo. On one of the days, I was sitting down there and a gentleman sat next to me. He had grey hair like me and he was older than me. And as we were sitting down there, he was asking me these questions. Oh, did you watch the footy? Blah, blah, blah. And I was hooked on chemo. I said to him, when are you going to get hooked on chemo? And he says, I'm not getting hooked on chemo. I said to him, like, why are you here? Like, we're sitting in there. And he goes, I just pop in here. And he's got the paper and he's reading it. I said, like, for what? He goes, visit someone? He goes, no, not specifically. Anyway, cut a long story short, ends up that this guy was just a guy that was a bit of a volunteer, come in, would cheer a few people up, wasn't working. And all I remember is I looked at him and I said, mate, anyway, it's been good chatting with you. Have a chat with someone else if you like. He goes, do you want me to go away? I said, mate, listen, up until a few weeks ago I had a perfect life. I said, I've got a terrible illness. They're telling me that it's not fixable. And I said, I haven't slept for days, mate. I said, listen, just...
I'm not in the mood.
Not in the mood.
Yeah.
And he got up and he said to me, I'll go. He goes, young man, I've walked your path. And I want to let you know that the future's going to be better than the present. And you've got the power to make it so. God bless you, young man. Have God in your heart. And he walked away.
Wow.
And I don't know what it is.
Wow.
But Bayley, I just thought to myself, I've upset this guy. He's walked off. But then I kept ruminating on what he said. The future's going to be better than the present, and you've got the power to make it so. God bless you. Give your heart to God. And it wasn't like I didn't believe in God, but I wasn't there, if you know what I mean.
It's not a
right?
priority. You know, things are good.
And after that, I slowly started thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to start having my own personal relationship with God. I remember that night, I slept like a baby.
Wow.
I slept like a baby. I said, God, this is your shift. Let me get some sleep. I don't know what it was, but I slept really well. And then I'd read the Bible. I'd go to church more often. I would have a personal, like you couldn't even hear me. I'd talk to God in silence. And then I started getting some positive results. I'll never forget it. They called me and they said that there had been shrinking of tumours. And then they said, listen, we're gonna. The big turn was when they said we're going from management to cure.
Wow.
They said we're going to try for cure. And it's just having an understanding that there's a higher being that's on my side. It's helped me so much, particularly with my brother George dying, right? Because I have a view that I'll be seeing my brother again. The ability to be able to know some of the things, like you can even just pick short passages out of the Bible, right? And they are stronger than any personal development book that you can get. They make the books like that Anthony Robbins writes look like they've been plagiarized.
Right. I know, it's incredible. And this is why we're open and talk about these things, because it's changed all of our lives. And one thing that you said which really resonated with me was one encounter that you had in that room with one guy technically changed the trajectory of your life to a degree, because it made you question something, right? And this is what we love in the locker room, because we're able to have conversations about topics. One conversation, one podcast, one anything can completely change the trajectory of someone's life purely by the words you speak, right? And this is what's so amazing, why we're so passionate about having these conversations, going deep, speaking about faith, because it's changed the trajectory of every single one of our lives, right? It's just incredible that this faith element plays such a pivotal role. So is there anything that, for other guys looking out there, even if it relates to career or anything, like what is it that intrigued you or will resonate with people to be like, maybe it is worth exploring? I know you have touched on it already, but is there anything else that like sparked your interest? Or a certain passage or anything like that.
Just to jump in, sorry, it's interesting how people go to God in the worst times usually.
I was
not the best times.
The two of you have that. I was going to touch on that. Sorry to interrupt. You both have had, unfortunately, quite a negative, different, but unfortunately a negative life experience that you guys had to fall for you guys to build a closer relationship with Christ. And sorry, keep going.
No, of course. I was just saying.
Very fascinating.
Yeah.
Basically what Bayley just said, but it's just interesting how, most people in this day and age run to God when it's their only hope. They're in that sort of bottleneck where they've got nothing else to have faith in. And then all of a sudden, God becomes real.
Jamie, that was me, right? And to be honest with you, I'm a work in progress. I was a parachute Christian. Right? Like, okay, I can't solve it. He can't solve it. Can anyone else? All right. Yep. Man, we're
Last
back
resort.
into chaos. We've got something that's it's not fixable.
Parachute.
That's cool. I love that concept. That's
right.
Probably
that's what it was there.
Everyone.
And I try not to be like that now. But Bayley made a very valid point, and that is, you don't know the person, the chapter in a book, the social media post, the podcast that actually changes it for you, right? You don't know. And
No idea.
hopefully some person that's driving along in their car now or working out at Anytime Fitness and they've, listening to this podcast, right? They're sort of sitting there and they're just thinking to themselves, hang on a second. Like this guy here, right? He's, come from Belmore, Lakemba. My parents got no money, right? They're good parents, but money was not there. And they seen someone move on. I don't say this to boast, but money has not been an issue for me for a long time. I work. I've made passion my paycheck. I don't work because I have to. I work because I want to. I have a model ELF, effortless, lucrative, fun. That's my business model. ELF, effortless, lucrative, fun. Right. Maybe someone's sitting there thinking to themselves, hang on a second. There's this guy here that he lives his time between Byron. He lives his time in Europe. He's got a, business, money's coming in, life is good. Yet he talks about a subject that often is not seen as being cool, trendy, modern. He talks about a relationship with God and that it's really possible to be have a decent run in all areas of your life and have God as your co-pilot.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. I think everything that was just said about, faith and how it ties into, not necessarily always being at the forefront of that life we all aspire to have, but it's still so valid in even someone like yourself that is living the dream that so many young people may want to live. And I think just touching on that point, like you've obviously been in the real estate industry for over 30 years and you've made such a big name for yourself, one of Australia's most famous auctioneers, you've got a platform of 27,000 students and, everyone knows you in the country that you're the real estate guy. How does someone that's in your field, which is real estate, where there's, a lot of shady deals going on and obviously money-hungry agents out there that may not be doing the best thing, how does someone like yourself in that industry still have a relationship with God, but also continue to aspire to grow that relationship at the same time?
Okay, so this is something you grapple with because, there's a view that to be successful in business, real estate, you've got to be shifty. You've got to sort of, say things that might not be true. I don't have that view. I actually have a view that good guys and good girls come first. I think the world has changed. I think that we live in a very transparent world where the truth can actually go out very, very quickly. And in fact, I'll say that doing the right thing is actually the only real way to become successful. And for me, that is totally aligned with my faith is basically aligned to that. Do the right thing by that person. Example, like we're told to care, right? I go in, tomorrow I'm going to be doing an auction and one of the reasons they might be selling, I'll do 10, 15 auctions. There's divorces, there's cancer diagnoses, there's bankruptcies. At the moment, there's, 13 rate rises and, social housing is a big issue. Man, an empathetic person is a better person in business because you're actually feeling the other person's pain. It's actually 100%. An advantage, right? So I actually think they do work together. But on the same token, one of my things is, Jamie, is, man, there's 60,000 real estate agents in Australia. It's got a low barrier to entry. If you've got a pulse rate and you're vertical, you can get into real estate. Like you don't need a master's degree or anything, right? So it does attract a lot of people that are watching shows that are looking at Maseratis and $1 million listing and all of that, and they're seeing that, and it attracts them. And I don't like those, those people. I mean, it's half the real estate agents that are posting up on social media, trying to validate their own self-ego. Look at my Rolex. Look at me. I'm in 1A in a business class ticket, or look at me. I'm eating at a, swanky restaurant, right? To me, I've actually found out that the values that I have in my faith are actually really success principles in connecting with people.
Wow.
And when there's trust in the relationship, the terms become negotiable. So I actually think it works really well.
That's awesome.
Love that.
Incredible.
So God facilitates that.
I think that's the perfect way to wrap it up. I think one thing would be super valuable, which we do with a lot of our guests, is for everyone listening right now, we've covered so many topics. What are 2 to 3 things that someone listening right now, we've touched on so many topics, can finish watching this podcast and execute today?
Implement.
Whether it's character, mindset, perception, faith, up to you.
Okay. Bayley, number 1, I would write myself a letter from the future. I would date it the 1st of June 2025, and I would write it back as if it's been achieved. Use the placebo effect, right?
Wow.
I would write a letter saying, "Dear Tom, what an amazing year it's been." Example, what might be in that
Goosebumps,
letter?
eh?
I love that.
It's this is the year I bought my first investment property. I got my body fat down to 15%. I went to New York for a 2-week vacation. I took my kids to Byron Bay or Disneyland, whatever. On a 1 page, then I would get that letter. I would use it, put it a photo in your camera roll, and I would look at it every morning to remind you. You're marketing to yourself a preview of your coming highlights.
That's reality.
Sick. That's actually
Yeah,
sick.
that's awesome.
I'm actually going to do that.
Genius,
Love
Right?
that.
I would do that.
Yep.
The second thing I would do is straight away, I would ruthlessly eliminate every tosser in your life. Right?
Wow.
And how do you identify a
I gotta get
tosser?
rid of these guys.
Get rid of each other.
Everyone's looking at each other.
Yeah, we're like, hold on a minute.
who's going to do the second first?
Why'd you look at me first?
Yeah, I would look. What I would do is, you know how sometimes people walk in, they're an illuminator. They walk in, they lighten the place up.
Yeah.
That's you.
That's what you do.
You did that today.
Yeah.
That's what you want. People like that. You don't want energy suckers. So when sometimes you're sitting down talking to someone, and you can just feel it. It's invisible. Like energy is weird. It's like the wind.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but you can feel the wind.
So
And it's
true.
the same, right?
Yeah.
So I would, like, I said to my daughters, I said to Maddie the other day, I said, sweetie, watch who you're hanging out with in Denmark. If you hang around with 4 dickheads, you become the 5th.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
True.
So I think the people, so to me would be a letter from the future, do an analysis, who is taking energy from me and who's illuminating me.
Yeah.
Wow.
And probably the third one is get absolute clarity. I think people are running around to new age people, to therapists. You don't need therapy, you need clarity, right?
yeah.
That's what you need, right? When you're clear about who you are, what you stand for, you move in, people are saying things, but when lions don't care about the opinions of sheep.
100%, man.
Love that.
Amazing way to wrap it up. Some great
took
points
so much
there.
value
Guys,
from that.
whoever's watching at home, make sure you take those down.
Yep.
Like today.
Right now, because you can execute right now all those 3 things.
100%.
And Tom, just to kind of finish off the episode, where can people find you if they're looking for any, I guess, real estate help or even just motivational, just like you as a person in general?
So, firstly, I am not looking to take on extra clients. So, if they're going to contact me for that, that's not happening now. It's not where I'm at with things.
Yep.
But Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, my digital business, realestategym.com.au. My website's tompanos.com.au. But I just think social's easier.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Tom
Awesome.
Panos, socials.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Bayley.
And let's finish this off with a message from our sponsor, Getaways.
The boys and I are blessed to be partnering with Getaways, who have some amazing short stay homes all around Australia.
Whatever the occasion, whether it's a trip away with your boys, a family holiday, or even a surprise vacation for your partner, Getaways has you covered.
And make sure you guys go ahead and check out Getaways on their website or on their social media platforms. We'll be leaving the link in the description below.